Hey everyone, it's Chica, and today I'm going to show you how to make a wreath sash. You've seen those trendy wreath sashes, a really pretty way to hang a nice ribbon across your wreath. It's a really great way to personalize the wreath. It turns out they're really easy to make. All we need is some fabric and a sewing machine. Okay, I've got a really nice pretty fabric here that Joe picked out for me, and this is what we're going to make our wreath sash out of. Now the sash is going to be 52 inches long and 4.5 inches wide. That's a pretty standard size for a wreath sash. So that's what we're going to make. Normal fabric on the bolt's only going to be about 44 or 45 inches wide, so you're not going to be able to go the width of the bolt. Instead, you're going to have to go the length. So let's open this up and you can see if we go with the bolt like this, we're going to need 1.5 yards of fabric to get to that 52 inches that we need. And then we're going to come in for our 4.5. If your budget does not allow you to buy that much fabric and you really just want to buy one strip off the bolt like this, you might need to buy 2 strips. You can sew them together to get your length, but you're going to have a seam on there, which may not look great. Or you can look for upholstery fabric, a lightweight upholstery fabric that comes in a wider width, and you might get to that 52 inches that way. But today we're going to work with a straight 44 to 45 inch, which means we need to cut off the bolt this way. All right, let's talk a little bit about how we're going to fold this. I've got this fabric off the bolt already folded in half because that's how it comes on the bolt, right? So we've already got this fold. And we actually want 2 of these pieces, so this is going to work out in our favor. We're going to leave it folded in half just like it comes off the bolt. Then we're going to fold it up in half to make our cut a little bit easier and fold it in half again. Okay, now we're going to swing this around and we're going to go to our selvage edge here. And that is where we're going to make our exact perfect cut. We don't want to cut the folded end, right? Because we're going to destroy all that fabric. We want to cut our selvage edge. So let's line this up here. I'm going to start by cutting this edge off here to get a nice clean cut. I've got my rotary cutter here. Perfect. So for a 4.5 inch sash, I'm going to allow a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side, which makes a 5 inch cut that we want to make. So let's line this up here on my grid. And let's come over 5 inches, which is right here, and cut this to 5 inches. Okay, now that we have our piece here, we can unfold it, and you can see at this edge, we actually have 4 ends. There we go. We have our nice long piece times 2 because we left that folded at the beginning. So we have 2 long pieces that are 1.5 yards long, because that's how long our fabric was, and 5 inches wide. So now we need to trim this down to 52 inches actually, because 1.5 yards is a little bit too long. So I'm going to start by cutting this end nice and straight. There we go. And now I'm going to measure this out to 52, 25, 50, bring this in the middle here, 52.5 seam allowance there on the end because we're going to cut this. So we're going to go to 52.5, which is for me right here. All right, there we go. Now we have our 2 beautiful pieces that are 52.5, and we really have the start here of our wreath sash. Now, the next thing we need to do is worry about the ends here because we want these tails to be angled. So we're going to line this up, fold it in half again. This is my folded edge over here. This is all of my cut ends. I'm going to line those up perfectly. And I'm going to put it right here on my grid. This is 5 inches across. We're going to go 5 inches up. And we're going to cut through all these layers at once. I'm going to use my straight edge here, corner to corner. And I'm going to cut this. Now, of course, the rotary tool really helps a lot with this kind of cutting and the cutting mat. But if you don't have this, you can just mark it with a pen or a pencil. You can use regular scissors and cut it. There we go. Now we have all the pieces here for our wreath sash. Lay it out so that you can see. All right, isn't that pretty? Okay, now it's time to get sewing. So the first thing we're going to do is actually flip these around. I happen to have the right sides out. That's just the way it was folded. I probably could have maybe changed that from the beginning, but that's no big deal because we're just going to flip these and put them right sides together. Because of course, that's how we're going to sew them. I'm going to go ahead and pin this just to hold everything together. Not super necessary. This is a pretty easy thing to feed through the machine, but we might as well pin it and hold everything straight. It'll just make life a little bit easier. All right, it's time to feed our sash through the sewing machine. I've got this set up with just normal stitching. All right, remember, this is inside out. We have right sides together, and that's how we're going to feed this through. So I'm just going to start here with the long edge, and we're just going to come into our 1/4 inch seam allowance and just sew this right on down the edge. All right, now when we get down to this end here, we're going to get to the point and stop. Walk it down here to the point, leave my needle in, lift the presser foot, and spin around. Right, once again, when I get to that corner, spin it around like this, and we're going to go back up the other long side. Once I'm about halfway up the long side here, I'm actually going to stop my row of stitches right here. Do a little backward stitching, lock it in. Cut that off. And I'm going to skip ahead 4 or 5 inches and hop down here and do that. And let's continue like that. Do the same thing here at the end that we did at the other end. Walk it down to the corner, right there, spin it. Remember, we actually started our stitches here, so we just have to run right off the end of this. Okay, there we have our piece all sewn, but it's inside out. So that is why we left this little gap here on the side. We're going to use that to turn this inside out. So we'll just reach in there and flip it inside out. A pencil is a really good tool, maybe the eraser end of a pencil, to shove down in there to get that all the way poked through when you turn it inside out. You really want to get that point really nice. There we go. All right, let's flip the other side. Now we have our piece right side out, and it looks so pretty. It really, really needs to be pressed now. We're going to press all of these seams down nice and flat. It's going to make such a difference. And when we do that, we've got this gap here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to fold those edges in when we press it. And then we're going to address how we're going to close that up. But let's get the iron nice and hot. Okay, now we need to iron this flat. We need to press all of these seams. We're going to roll them out as much as we can here. Get that corner all the way out. A little water. And we're going to steam that flat. Keep on going all the way around. Okay, when you get to this area here, remember where we had this gap? What I'm going to do is fold those ends in as if they were sewn. Get them nice and flat in there. We're going to steam that nice and flat. Okay, that doesn't seal it, but it does flatten it. We're going to address this in just a minute, but for now, I just want it flat. By the way, while I'm ironing this, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't. We've got lots of fun projects coming, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of them. Okay, now we have our nice flat pressed sash. Last thing we need to do is close up that hole I told you about. What I've got here is some heat-sensitive bonding tape. I'm going to cut a little piece of that to the size of my gap. And this particular kind that I got actually dries kind of firm. So I don't want to use more than I need to. So I'm going to cut this down lengthwise and get a skinnier strip. This one also has a paper backing on it. I'm going to peel that off. So here is my gap. I'm going to take that little bit of heat activated adhesive tape and I'm going to stick that right inside. And it's going to be just like it was sewn. Make sure none's sticking out and just hit it with the iron. Definitely follow the package directions on this, whatever of the adhesive tape that you use. Some of them require steam, some just require heat. So make sure you do whatever the instructions. All right, now this one has to set and cool before the adhesive is really bonded. Now that that's cooled, it is closed right up, just like we sewed it all along. And here is our nice finished wreath sash. This is ready to hang on your wreath in whatever way that you want. You can also decide to decorate these tails if you want to. You could add a patch here, you could stencil or design or paint something on there, or even pick a fabric with a little more character than this one so that the fabric itself makes the statement. And you can see this looks really great on a wreath. You just tie it on there and it really adds some character to your wreath. See, making your own wreath sash is really not that hard of a project. I hope you enjoy this project. Thanks for watching. See ya.